the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Sorry for a little snafu for a minute there, but we're good. We're back. It's Full Court Press on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 1069thefan.com and the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Happy to have you along with us. Shortened show today. We got Utah Hockey Club. They are on the road. They only have 2 games left. They play tonight and they play tomorrow night. And that means their pre-games start at 5:30 each evening with a 6 o'clock start. So a little bit of a shortened show, at least this hour. So we'll try to get as much as we can in the short time that we are together. And if you want to weigh in during that time, we invite you to chime in on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. Last hour, we talked about transfer news. And really non-transfer news for Carson Templin, which is exciting. Gary Clark, 6'8" power forward from Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Looks like he's headed to Utah State to be part of the men's basketball program. And then looks like the Pac-12 is nearing a media deal, more specifically for what Oregon State and Washington State are going to need this upcoming fall for football. But it's probably a good indicator of what's happening for the rest of the conference for 2026 and beyond. So it looks like some headway is being made, but still nothing official yet from the Pac-12.
Yeah, could maybe have it done, but they keep pushing the deadlines back. They're not getting done as quickly as I think any of the sides were expecting, and it's causing issues for the Pac-12 in its attempts to finalize its expansion in the short term. But if they manage to get everything done, if they manage to get a good media deal, and they manage to, bring in a quality program or two, then I suppose it'll all be worth it. Kind of on that note, 6-5-4-3, it's in the new Pac-12 conference. Is it supposed to be the lowest power conference or the top-ranked mid-major conference? Ultimately, the top-ranked mid-major conference, that's what they're going for. They don't have the power conference or the autonomous conference, whatever the label is. Sometimes in the official documents they try and say autonomous conference,
right?
Because I guess they don't like the term power conference because it implies weakness or something.
I don't know. I mean, if they are autonomous, why aren't they making their own decisions on certain things?
Yeah. So the Power 5 label has pretty much been, or the Power Conference label has been stripped from the Pac-12, like in a more official sense. So it is Power 4 at this point, or in basketball, you can still say Power 5 because the Big East. But yeah, they're trying to get
high
to that,
mid-major.
Yeah, high major, whatever. There's a bunch of different confusing terms that change between the sports. But yeah, it's meant to be the highest of the mid-majors in basketball and football, essentially. Be that preeminent mid-major group of 5, or I guess in this case group of 6 conference now with football. So that's the goal. We'll see if they hit it. They're pretty well positioned to be that. They have most of the best football programs left in G5, or at least the best collection of them in one spot. And then they have most of the best mid-major basketball teams. Teams like Gonzaga, Utah State, San Diego State, Boise State, Colorado State. So they're doing pretty good in both of those. Could use some more consolidation of those top mid-major programs, Memphis being one of them. But yeah, they should be, again, if they don't mess up this process, which unfortunately the Pac-12 has been known to mess things up repeatedly.
Yeah.
But provided they don't mess things up, they should be pretty well positioned to be the top mid-major conference going forward. But it's going to come after whatever media deal they can pull off, which, again, we're moving the deadline every 2 weeks. So we'll see if they do it again. If they move the deadline again, like if we get to the beginning of May and it's not there, start hitting the panic button.
Yeah, well, I'm already hitting the panic button.
Yeah.
I mean, they still have to go find another school to change affiliation from where they already are.
Yeah.
That is not a cheap endeavor. It's not an easy logistical endeavor either. They need as much lead time as possible. So, man.
I think what helps is that they've surely already been having those conversations. It's just a matter of making sure it's not super expensive. Because there are some more deadlines coming up where if they don't hit those, it's going to like double the amount of money they have to pay to some of these conferences. So if they have any prayers of getting an AAC team, well, they probably should have done it yesterday, but they need to have it done by May. I think technically some of the deadlines are in like late May or early June, but they need to get some of this stuff done pronto. They've already wasted too much time. But I don't know. I'd wait to hit the true panic button, but certainly there's some yellow flags being waved around the Pac-12 media deal and Pac-12 expansion. Not enough to think that the conference is going to fall to pieces and that it's going to fall apart next July when the deadline comes and goes for them to have 8 full member institutions, but enough that they can end up having to stoop down to, bring in some school who has no business being in the Pac-12, but that may be their only option at that point.
Yeah, so we'll continue to monitor that. The latest on the media stuff is a report from John Canzano earlier today that's suggesting that Oregon State and Washington State are in they're in negotiations for a media deal for this upcoming season. Last year for football they had a scheduling agreement with the Mountain West, but they also had their own media deal to have their games on the CW. That's likely to continue for this next year. They don't have that same scheduling arrangement with Mountain West anymore. They still need a media deal. They still want one to have their games available on media outlets. And it's unlikely that basically the report boils down to it's unlikely that they're going to negotiate something for this year without having something already kind of in place for 2026 and beyond. So they're likely running in parallel paths for the negotiations that are going on. But it appears to be getting closer, but not quite there yet.
No, not quite across the finish line.
No. And then certainly the other big news is the NBA regular season concluded yesterday afternoon. Interesting how the NBA schedules it. Everybody played on Friday. Hardly anybody played on Saturday. And then everybody played Sunday afternoon. So that the NBA in scheduling tries to avoid opportunities for teams to game seeding situations, though I wonder how much of that still took place. Some teams were we're just going to rest players, but there were a lot of teams that were very, very close to each other, all stacked up in the West. It was a very tight race in the Western Conference. So it really did come down to the final game and the final bucket on the Sunday. And now we know the standings as they are concluded for the regular season. And for the Jazz, they cleaned out their lockers today, and they're already starting to figure out what they want to do for pre-draft workouts and evaluating players for next year. We'll get into that on another day, but the playoffs are now set with the play-in tournament starting tomorrow. Some teams are trying to avoid it because they've got veteran rosters and they really wanted the extra days, but teams like Golden State did not get that extension, that opportunity. They have to play in the play-in tournament as they finished 7th in the standings.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what Golden State, who had been pretty hot at the end of the season, do they end up just succumbing to what may be bad luck? If you look, of course, they get 2 games, they get 2 chances, but do they end up losing the first one? They got to play the Grizzlies, a team that has an interim head coach. And if they lose that, do they end up having to play Oklahoma City? The team that's been the best team in basketball all year. Them or the Cleveland Cavaliers. Of course, the Oklahoma City 68 wins to Cleveland 64. But yeah, it's tough when you're in the play-in because not only do you have to play one of the top teams in the conference, you've also got to play extra games to get there. So it makes things exciting. It's great for the fans. I think people have liked the play-in. But for teams, obviously, there's a real incentive to avoid it if you can.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can. So the play-in tournament It will feature in the West, Sacramento versus Dallas. Winner of that faces
the loser of Golden State
the loser of Golden State and Memphis. And then from there, you get either the number 1 seeded team or the number 2 seeded team, either the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Houston Rockets.
Yeah.
The Lakers are going to face the Timberwolves, and then the Nuggets will face the Clippers. So there's some pretty interesting matchups through all of this. That 4-5 matchup, Michael Malone recently got fired. Kawhi Leonard has been a widely forgotten player because he hasn't played, but he has been playing the last few months, and he's been playing very well. So can he step things up and play at a different level? For Denver, Jamal Murray has kind of been hit and miss with health and certainly the coaching situation. So there's a lot of interesting storylines with that one. And with the Lakers and the Timberwolves, the unfortunately Timberwolves end up at number 6. So Utah doesn't get a potential lottery pick from the Timberwolves this year, but that still could be an interesting matchup with one of the exciting young players in Anthony Edwards versus some more experienced players with LA, but also Luka Doncic in a Lakers uniform.
And to me, I think in the West, it's just about, is there anybody that's going to be able to compete with Oklahoma City? Is OKC just that dominant? And do things change in the playoffs? Because they've got a younger team. They don't have like playoff veterans on the team for the most part. So they were the best team in the West by a long ways. They were 16 games ahead of Houston in second place. Like saying Houston's in second is like, it almost feels like an overstatement because they're just so far.
Yeah.
Like it's true, they're in second, but there's 3 games separating second and sixth, and and again 16 games from, like, the distance between Oklahoma City and Houston is the same as Houston and like the Phoenix Suns, who are out of the playoffs. So that's kind of the gap that we're dealing with here. So, but the thing is, the Warriors, that Jimmy Butler trade seemed to do wonders for them, at least at times. The LA Lakers now have another legit star in Luka, who can take on a little bit more of the load from LeBron as he kind of ages. It's harder for him to carry a team, but does he flip a switch in the playoffs where you can sometimes coast in the regular season in a lot of ways to conserve energy for the playoffs? Is Houston worthy of being a number 2 seed, or are they just, again, there's 4 games between them and the Warriors, who are in the play-in, and if the Warriors win, they'll play Houston. That's a 4-game difference. There's not really that much of a difference. There's hardly that much of a difference in the standings between the Warriors and the Rockets. So how is all that mess going to work itself out, and do any of them end up challenging the Thunder? I think it'll be interesting that you get the Nuggets and you have Nikola Jokic, who's the best player in the NBA, in my opinion, and they go up against the Thunder in the second round if they win that first series. What does that matchup look like? So yeah, the West is a very interesting concoction of matchups.
Yeah, I think the West is certainly more compelling than the East, just because it's so tight and there's so many different storylines at play. In the East, Cleveland's number 1, Boston's number 2, and then there's a gap. Cleveland's ahead of Boston by 3 games. Boston's ahead of New York by 10 games. And then there's a bunch of teams that are kind of close to each other, but it's a pretty delineated line once you go through there. But for the Eastern Conference, it'll be Miami versus Chicago for the in the 9-10 matchup. Orlando versus Atlanta in the 7-8 matchup for the rights to play Cleveland or Boston. And so, yeah, you've got some notable names in that mix. But then Indiana versus Milwaukee, that 4-5 matchup can always be pretty spicy. Detroit, one of the biggest winning differential turnarounds in a long, long time from what they did last year. I think it's like 30 games difference.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Something like that. The improvement they made.
I think they had the number 1 odds going into the draft last year, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so their turnaround has been amazing, but is it enough for them to win in the playoffs? They'll face the Knicks, and then Boston versus or whoever in those bottom 4 teams, and Cleveland versus the rest of those teams. I really think still this is Cleveland and Boston it's up to them. Those are the two teams to watch out for the most coming out of the East. I don't know that there's too many other legitimate contenders beyond them. But when I look at the West, there's so many different teams that have experience and have veteran players that can and have proven they can turn it on and be dangerous. It's Oklahoma City has the best record, but do they have what it takes to play in tight, power or pressure packed situations to make it all the way through? Because Lakers, Nuggets, Clippers, Golden State, any of those teams, even Minnesota to some degree, has the talent to turn it on and be very dangerous on any given night.
Yeah, I think the West is going to, have a lot more drama in terms of who maybe ends up coming out. Because in the East, it's Cleveland or Boston. If anybody else beats them, I'll be really surprised. I wouldn't be floored if a team like the Warriors or Lakers could beat the Thunder or even the Nuggets. Some of these teams with that veteran experience they have. But in the end, Oklahoma City may just be that much better and could end up coasting through the West. And then they would face a challenge, I think, in either a Boston or Cleveland. Although Cleveland faces some of the similar things to Oklahoma City, where it's like they're the best team in their conference, but do they have the playoff experience? Cleveland does have noted NBA champion Sam Merrill on their team.
Yes, true.
So they have championship experience. So, I'm going to enjoy the basketball regardless. I'm going to love tuning into a lot of these games on both the East and the West. We'll see. I've tended to like the Eastern Conference matchups more in recent years, but I'm wondering if it'll be a little different this year.
435-339-0321. Is there a NBA playoff matchup you're more interested to pay attention to than any others, where the Jazz aren't in it? Any other teams or series that are worth paying attention to? And speaking of the Jazz not in it, now that we know all the final standings, what could happen with them with the upcoming NBA draft and the draft lottery? We'll discuss that coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice, and I'm here with Barbara. Barbara, how did you become acquainted with Primrose?
I had been trying to get another company to come and help me, and I had waited about 2 weeks, and I needed a bath. My neighbor suggested that she would make a few phone calls, and that very afternoon, Mark Stokes was sitting in my front room, and he said, "What do you need?"
Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
When grid failures and severe weather cause power outages, your business might take a hit, or at home, you could lose your refrigerated food storage. Generac Standby Power Solutions help ensure an uninterrupted power supply. Generac is the #1 brand of standby generators. Get yours today from Golden Spike Electric, your trusted source for safety and security. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
Girls, us guys are always trying to score some brownie points, but we need all the help we can get. So dropping some subtle hints is helpful, such as your favorite food is Italian, you love the color green, and you want the ring from Jarek's Fine Jewelry, the place with the bright green cars on 930 North Main Street. Okay, so it might not be so subtle, but that's okay. Remember, we need the help. Make it special, make it Jarek's. Now remember, just tell him it's the place with the bright green cars.
This is Kyle at Advanced Door, and we guarantee every garage door we install for a lifetime, parts and labor. That's every door, every spring, every roller, every track, every motor. The entire garage door system guaranteed for a lifetime, parts and labor. We're Advanced Door, and we guarantee you'll be hearing this for a long time. Find out more at advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
Aggie fans, the Blue and White sale is in week number 2 at Locker 42. New discounts every week on the coolest Aggie apparel. This week, take 30% off all Coliseum jackets, coats, shirts, sweats, and shorts for men, women, and kids. Show your Aggie pride loud, proud, and now for less. 30% off all Coliseum brand apparel, this week only. Shop the Blue and White sale at Locker 42 downtown Logan and see more specials at locker42.com.
Retirement. Are you ready? Adams Wealth Advisors specializes in preparing you for a secure retirement. There's no reason to feel frustrated. The team at Adams Wealth will create a personalized plan that includes timing of retirement, reliable income sources, Social Security, estate planning, and more. Adams Wealth Advisors has a team of CPA, certified financial planners, Social Security experts to help you plan and retire with confidence. Call today, 752-1702, or visit adamswealthadvisors.com. That's adamswealthadvisors.com. Your dream retirement starts here.
Are you looking for compassionate and reliable care for yourself or a loved one? Look no further than Aegis Home Health and Hospice. I'm Tom Sherlock, a licensed social worker, part of the dedicated team of professionals committed to meeting the needs of our community. Voted best in Northern Utah 2 years in a row, we pride ourselves on delivering exceptional service that you can depend on. We're here to ensure comfort and dignity every step of the way. When it comes to your health, choose the agency that Northern Utah trusts the most. Choose Aegis. Visit myaegis.com or call today 435-723-9000.
The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Hey, you can get season golf passes to Birch Creek Golf with every machine purchase over $20,000 at Young Power Sports of Logan. And if you need a friend to ride with, refer a friend and they'll get $500 off select machines and you get a $50 service coupon. Go check it out today at Young Power Sports of Logan today. So the NBA season has concluded. Utah Jazz did finish with the worst overall record. The Washington Wizards had a chance to change that a little bit, but they actually won on Sunday. Jazz ended up losing. So the Utah Jazz ended up with the worst overall record, which doesn't necessarily mean they have the best overall chance at the number one pick, but it does assure that they can pick no lower than fifth.
Yep. That is the absolute lowest that they can go. Granted, it's almost a 50-50 shot that they do pick fifth. It's like 47% that they'll pick fifth, and then the other 52 change percent is spread between picks 1 through 4. I believe the highest of those, I suddenly can't find.
I think first is 14%.
I guess first is 14%. Okay, I found the chart. It's 14% to be the first overall pick, 13.4 for number 2, 12.7 at number 3, 12 even for number 4, and 47.9 for number 5. Which, like, those odds are specifically designed to deter people from trying to get that number 1 pick. They don't want teams bottoming out as hard as possible because they're like, all right, coin flip, you get number 5 anyway. But didn't deter Utah or Washington or Charlotte or New Orleans from tanking as hard as possible to get those best odds, because here they are, 3 teams that were trying to be bad.
Wasn't it Atlanta last year that ended up with the top pick, even though they weren't the worst record?
Yeah, so like it's very likely the highest odds are that the Jazz will not pick number 1, and I'd even say top 2. They're pretty low. Like I said, if you go do these, sim the lottery type things, like here, I'm on the page, let me sim the lottery, and they fell to number 3. That's just, simulate the lottery 100 times, and you're only getting them 1 pick again about 14 times. So the odds are your most likely destination is number 5. And that's what can just be so frustrating about this game, is that even though the Jazz are trying to do it for the purpose of getting a top pick, the odds are still not in their favor that they will get what they want. They will very likely have to settle for one of these guys that, sure, they're, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey and VJ Edgecombe are well-regarded prospects, but the prize is Cooper Flagg, and odds are they aren't getting him. They have to get lucky. And that's the frustrating thing about tanking. That's where the NBA is kind of successful, is they punish teams that tank on purpose because the odds just aren't in their favor. But the Jazz feel like they don't have any other choice.
Yeah.
So they're going to tank this year, and they're probably going to tank next year.
That's what makes me worried, is that if they do not land that number one seed, or the number one pick, then we will have another year like we just went through.
Yeah, that's very likely that ends up happening. If they get that number one overall pick, a lot of things, kind of go under the bridge. A lot of, forgiveness maybe from the fans. I know a lot of fans are still frustrated this tank season happened. A lot of them aren't happy. A lot of them are really frustrated. They traded Donovan Mitchell, who's now on the number one seed in the East, team. They traded him away, traded Rudy Gobert away for this tank. Was that the right decision in hindsight? I still kind of feel like it is, given that you're not dealing with having Mitchell and Gobert on the team in a vacuum. Like, there were a lot of problems that were going on with that team, so keeping them isn't necessarily this easy, static situation. But it's hard to look back and say, hey, we had an all-NBA player and now 4-time Defensive Player of the Year on the same team. And we're giving that up to maybe get Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
That's quite the gamble that the Jazz have taken, and so they better hope it pays off, or a lot of fans like me are going to be very disinterested for a few years.
A couple of quick texts coming through from 8968. A shortened show today. Just think you're not too far from shortening the show by an hour.
Yeah,
it's coming up.
We're not too far.
Very quickly. And then 8003, what are the other teams' odds?
So the other teams' odds, I moved away from the chart. So the number one pick odds are actually the same for 1, 2, and 3. They're all 14%. And then number 4 gets a 12.5, and number 5 is 10.5. And everyone after that, it descends until eventually you're getting less than 1%. I won't go all of them, but like for Washington, they have about the same odds the Jazz have for the number 5 pick. They have about those same odds. They'll end up at 5 or 6. It's split between those spots. So it's like 28 for 5, 20 for 6. Charlotte, similar odds that they'll fall somewhere between 5 and 7. So that's where like the second and third spots, like the advantage of being 1 versus 3 is that you can fall no further than 5. And because 1, 2, and 3 have pretty similar odds. In fact, actually looking at it, they have the exact same odds for 1, 2, 3, and 4. 14 for 1, 13.5 for 2, 12.7 for 3, 12 even for 4. It's just the how far can you fall type thing. The Jazz can fall as far as 5, Washington as far as 6, 3 as far as 7, 4 can fall as far as 8, and keep going back from there. So, yeah, the odds are all around in the low teens to end up somewhere 1 through 4 for a lot of these high teams in the high lottery. You just got to hope you're lucky.
Yeah, and the NBA draft lottery is coming up on, I think it's May 12th?
Yeah, I think May 12th is what I looked up, so about a month.
Yeah, we are a month away before that happens, and I think it'll take place before one of the playoff games on ESPN, I believe. So
yeah, I forget the exact timing during the day, but yeah, it's in the middle of the playoffs. It's like, all right, here's the lottery, everybody.
Yeah, it'll be a 30-minute show, and then they'll go into other things. So we'll definitely be watching for that. So that's going to do it for us tonight. Utah Hockey Club coming up next.
Your station for The Odd Couple. Weeknights from 6 to 8 on Sports Talk Radio. 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.